When the West slowed down, China did the opposite. While global markets reeled from the 2008 financial crash, Beijing saw an opportunity to rebuild not just its economy, but its future. Factories roared back to life. Entire cities were redesigned. Billions of dollars flowed into solar, wind, and electric transport, not as an experiment, but as a national mission. In a single decade, China built more renewable capacity than the rest of the world combined. And behind this surge was something even more powerful than technology, a strategy, a vision, and a quiet belief that whoever controlled the next wave of energy would control the next century. From wind farms in Inner Mongolia to solar deserts in Xinjiang and vast electric vehicle factories on the coasts, China wasn't just competing, it was rewriting the rules of global industry. But not everyone saw this as progress. In Washington, Brussels, and Tokyo, alarm bells began to ring. Was this the dawn of a greener future or the rise of a new kind of dominance? This is part 2, the Great Energy Shift, how China rewired the world. This is USMag. When Donald Trump entered the White House, America's direction shifted dramatically. He reversed many of his predecessors' environmental policies, and at the United Nations, he went even further, calling climate change the greatest hoax in history. But where America stepped back, China stepped forward. Experts say Beijing saw what others did not, a power vacuum, a chance to lead the world's next great energy revolution. And almost symbolically, just one day after Trump's UN speech, President Xi Jinping took the stage at that very same institution and made history. For the first time, China pledged to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. But make no mistake, this wasn't driven by idealism. Analysts believe China's motivation wasn't love for the planet, it was strategy. The Chinese Communist Party viewed clean energy not as charity, but as opportunity, a chance to dominate the industries of the future. While European leaders debated carbon targets, Beijing was quietly pouring billions into solar, wind, and electric vehicles, building entire industries from the ground up. Analysts like Byford Sang say China has always seen climate change through an industrial lens, as part of its long-term economic plan. Under Xi Jinping, the government launched massive programs to support renewable sectors, programs so vast, so heavily subsidized, that Western leaders began accusing China of breaking the rules of global trade. In response, the US and Europe imposed tariffs, trying to protect their own markets from the flood of cheap Chinese solar panels and electric cars. But according to researchers at the European think tank Bruegel, that strategy may have backfired. Instead of slowing China down, it fueled its drive even more. Take solar panels, a field now completely dominated by China. Even as global prices fell and Western restrictions tightened, China didn't back off. It doubled down, expanding production, driving prices lower, and locking in control of the clean energy supply chain. In just over a decade, China didn't just catch up to the West, it overtook it. And today, as the world races toward a cleaner future, it's not Washington or Brussels, but Beijing that's steering the course. China's green energy transformation isn't just changing its own destiny. It's beginning to shake the very foundations of global power. And for the world's two biggest fossil fuel empires, the United States and Russia, that's becoming a serious problem. Both Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have long tied their nation's futures to oil and gas, the fuels that built their power and filled their treasuries. Their economies, their political influence, even their global leverage, all depend on the world continuing to burn fossil fuels. But China's quiet revolution is starting to break that pattern. For years, even as Beijing expanded its solar and wind power at record speed, its hunger for energy kept growing. A booming economy, a rising middle class, millions of new homes, cars, and factories all demanded more electricity than renewables alone could supply. So, China kept buying oil, coal, and gas from the very countries now watching nervously. But according to energy researchers at Ember, something remarkable happened last year. Clean energy met 84% of all new energy demand. The remaining 16%, fossil fuels, just a fraction of what it once was. And then came the moment of change. In the summer of 2025, China's demand for fossil fuels stopped rising. For the first time in history, solar and wind power in China grew faster than total electricity demand. In simple terms, renewables didn't just keep up, they surpassed. And that milestone had real consequences. China's oil, coal, and gas consumption actually fell by 2%. 2%, a small number, yes, but a seismic signal for the world's largest energy consumer. For Washington and Moscow, this is more than a dip in sales. It's a warning. China, once their most loyal customer, is outgrowing the very fuels that made them powerful. And as Beijing's renewable grid expands, the West's and Russia's economic influence begins to shrink. Because in this new era, power no longer belongs to those who sell oil, but to those who no longer need it. The world's energy order is changing. And for the first time in over a century, it's not Washington or Moscow leading that change, but Beijing. Can the West really keep up with China? Experts across global energy think tanks are sounding the alarm. Western nations, they warn, are falling behind in a race that will define the world's future. A race for energy dominance. And catching up to China won't be easy. Their reports point to two major obstacles: high production costs and slow, tangled bureaucracies that delay approvals and drain momentum. These challenges make it nearly impossible for Western economies to match China's speed or its scale. While the United States and Europe have turned their focus toward cutting-edge technologies like hydrogen transport and carbon capture, these projects are complex, expensive, and painfully slow to deliver real-world results. China, meanwhile, took a different route, a faster, leaner, more practical one. Instead of waiting for perfect technology, Beijing focused on what works, producing solar panels and wind turbines in staggering quantities and at remarkably low prices. The result? A tidal wave of clean tech exports flooding global markets, reaching even the world's poorest nations. But underneath this success lies a deeper tension. The West doesn't want to depend on Chinese technology. Reports show that producing clean energy in the US costs nearly twice as much per watt as it does in China. Twice as much. And cost is only half the problem. For America to electrify its economy the way China has, it would need long-term planning, public alignment, and political courage. But that kind of unity is rare in a democracy. Policy debates, corporate lobbying, and deep partisan divides, they slow everything down. China, however, moves differently. Under a centralized, one-party system, decisions are made fast. There are no long hearings, no political gridlock, just orders and execution. And as that system continues to deliver results, the gap between East and West keeps growing. Now, developing nations are watching closely. From Africa to Asia to Latin America, many are adopting China's model, not only because it's affordable, but because it frees them from dependence on oil and gas superpowers, including the United States and Russia. Today, roughly 1 in 4 developing countries has already surpassed U.S. electricity generation capacity, thanks largely to Chinese-built technology. For Beijing, this isn't just an economic victory, it's a strategic one. Every solar panel shipped, every battery installed, extends China's influence. One connection, one power line at a time. Through renewable energy, China isn't just exporting technology, it's exporting power, both electrical and political. As cities across the global south light up with Chinese-made energy, they're also, in a quiet, lasting way, plugging into Beijing's growing orbit. And in this new age of green power, the question is no longer who leads today, but who will control the current of tomorrow. So that was part 2 of our Green Energy series. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell us your thoughts in the comments below.